Washington's ambassador to the UN says the United States will veto a new ceasefire resolution on Gaza if it comes to a vote. Algeria submitted a proposal to the Security Council 2 weeks ago calling for an immediate ceasefire and large-scale humanitarian relief for the enclave. Now, this comes as Israel is planning for a ground invasion of Rafah. The population there in Gaza's southernmost city has ballooned to some 1.5 million people as Palestinians seek refuge from the war. Now, Israel's prime minister says they need to move again, claiming there's, quote, a lot of space north of Rafah for people to go. Meanwhile, Israeli forces are launching strikes in Rafah already and in central Gaza, killing at least 81 people so far. All right, Elliot Gotkin joins me now from London. So, Elliot, as I said, the Biden administration threatened to veto a Gaza ceasefire resolution at the UN Security Council. So what's been the reaction and what impact might this have on negotiations and possibly the war?
Kim, I don't think there's any great surprise that the US is saying that it would veto this resolution as is. It has vetoed previous UN security resolutions that have called for not unilateral ceasefire, but for a ceasefire in the war between Israel and Hamas. And the main reason is that it goes against the US's position, which is that it supports Israel's objective, if not the way that it's doing it, but certainly supports the objective and the goal of destroying Hamas, and at the same time doesn't want to see hostage negotiations, as poorly as they are going, according to the Qataris. It doesn't want to see those negotiations being torpedoed. Specifically, the US's envoy to the United Nations saying, we believe the deal, this is the hostage deal that's been mooted, represents the best opportunity to reunite all hostages with their families and enable a prolonged pause in fighting, adding that for that reason, the United States does not support action on this draft resolution. Should it come up for a vote as drafted, it will not be adopted. And the US, as I say, supporting Israel's goal of destroying Hamas. And it's interesting now that it seems to be on a different page to the Qataris. The Qataris saying that there should not be, that a hostage deal shouldn't be required in order for there to be a ceasefire, and that a ceasefire should happen even without one. Of course, in the meantime, Israel is also hoping that its mooted ground operation in Rafah will put further pressure on Hamas to moderate its demands, which Israel has derided as being delusional in terms of the quantity of Palestinian prisoners that it wants freed in exchange for the release of the 100 hostages abducted as part of its massacre of October the 7th, and also the severity of the sentences that some of those Palestinian prisoners are serving. So Israel hoping to put more pressure on Hamas to moderate its demands, and the US also wanting to put more pressure on Hamas to come to the table to do a deal that would see this 6-week pause in fighting come into effect, and a hostage deal that sees the release of the 100+ hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners taking place. And it feels that this resolution, if anything, would reduce the pressure on Hamas to do so. Of course, the other thing to watch for here is the impact domestically. President Biden coming under a lot of pressure from within his own Democratic Party, and also from voters, particularly younger voters, Arab American voters, who do not support the US's stance, and perhaps they will be even less inclined to support Biden in the wake of any vetoing of this resolution. Kim?
All right, Elliot Gotkin in London, thanks so much.
Israel's Prime Minister says it is still, quote, realistic for his armed forces to expand military operations in Rafah, a tiny area in southern Gaza where nearly 1.5 million people have been crammed into, seeking a semblance of safety from the war. Mr. Netanyahu now says they need to move again, claiming there is, quote, a lot of space north of Rafah for people to go to. Meanwhile, Israeli forces are launching strikes in Rafah already and in central Gaza, where many who were in Rafah have already fled. Nick Robertson shows us the aftermath, a warning his report contains graphic and distressing images.
Terrified, calling for her mother. A young girl on the floor of Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital in Deir al-Balah in central Gaza, victim of a nearby Israeli airstrike, her mother at her side. A missile came and destroyed the whole area, she says. My sister's daughter was killed. Here is my daughter. She's injured in her back, stomach and leg. Rescuers at the site of the impact frantically search the rubble for more survivors in what they describe as family homes. This man reunited, the boy uninjured, fared better than others, he found. 2 missiles were being targeted at a house, and they destroyed the house, he says, and the whole civilian area around it. We took around 4 women out and some children who were injured in the head. The IDF said they targeted a series of Hamas operation and command and control centres in Deir al-Balah. Airstrikes, they say, were based on intelligence. Doctors from Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital and the nearby Al-Auda Hospital say at least 44 people died, including children, and dozens of others were injured in the Israeli airstrikes. Some people here have been on the run from bombs and missiles for months. Abu Saif, at his wit's end, had taken refuge with nearly 1.4 million others in Rafah, fleeing as he realized it is Israel's next target. We were in Rafah in the tents, he says, and they started telling us there is bombing. Go back north. So we came north, and they targeted the home next to us and destroyed it. At a press conference Saturday, Prime Minister Netanyahu advising Gazans to flee Rafah, saying, there is a lot of space north of Rafah. We have to make sure we do this in an orderly manner. And this is the instruction I have given to the IDF. Despite a week of growing international pressure on Netanyahu not to send the IDF into Rafah, he said he told President Biden that Israel wouldn't stop until it has, quote, complete victory, including sending ground forces into Rafah, something he said that wouldn't happen until citizens were safely evacuated. Nick Robertson, CNN, Tel Aviv, Israel.